I've been shooting with a gimbal now for a number of years on both my personal and paid projects because of course it is absolutely essential that at some point you will need a completely stabilised shot. And one of the main questions that I do get, because I do use the Panasonic S5 for all my work, is how do I manual focus while shooting with a gimbal? So in today's video, what I thought I'd do is just show you guys my gimbal setup with the Panasonic S5 and hopefully shed some light on how you can manual focus quite accurately and smoothly while shooting with a gimbal. So first and foremost, let me just tell you about the gimbal that I'm using. So I'm still quite old school and I'm still using the Giant Crane 2, despite the fact that that thing came out I think in October of 2017. But for a 5-year-old gimbal, it still does the job extremely well, and to be honest, I've had no reason to upgrade it. And of course with that gimbal you do actually have the option to add a servo focus motor, which is of course how I normally pull focus when I am using the S5 on that gimbal. And of course that servo focus motor just attaches via a small rod on the front of the gimbal, and of course you can use a focus gear ring on the lens that you're using to pull focus from the handle, which is really nice. And when I am shooting on a gimbal, I normally tend to use either the Panasonic 16-35 or the Sigma 2870, just because they're quite lightweight, and of course those focal ranges are actually really helpful when you are trying to get stable shots. So when I'm monitoring my shot with a gimbal, I normally use a clamp from Smallrig that attaches to the upper part of the gimbal handle, so it doesn't actually affect the pivoting point when you're using it. And then on that clamp I attach a Smallrig cold shoe, so I can easily put on any monitor that I want to monitor my shot. And then monitors wise, what I normally use with a gimbal is a 5-inch monitor, so either my Atomos Ninja V or my DesView R6, purely because the 5-inch screen works the best for me when using a gimbal, and I think that the 7-inch displays can sometimes be a little bit too big and sort of cumbersome to use when you are shooting with a gimbal. And overall, like I said, I found this setup to be really nice because it means that I can actually put the screen dead center of the setup and it's not off to the side, so therefore my perception of the middle point of my shot won't be distorted in any way, shape or form like it would be if you did have your monitor attached off to the side like a lot of people do with their gimbal setups. And on the screen now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up a few shots that I've taken with this setup, so using this gimbal with the S5 on it, pulling focus manually, so you can sort of get an idea of the sort of thing that you can get. And of course, everyone's seen what a gimbal shot looks like, but it's just a little bit of filler so you can see whether you like the results from it. And yeah, like I said, I've not really had many issues with this setup. It's pretty simple, it doesn't take too long to sort of build up like some gimbal setups do, and normally I can have the gimbal set up and balanced within 5 minutes after getting it out the case. And of course, speed on set is always really important. Where the focus wheel is placed on the Giant Crane is also really useful, and I find that I'm able to adjust my focus quite easy by just moving my thumb very slightly up and down on that wheel. So yeah, it does actually make the whole experience nice and easy. And then of course on my monitor I always use peaking so I can be sure that I'm focused on the places that I want to be focused in. I would never, to be honest, I would never actually use manual focus without using peaking on whatever display I'm using, purely because it does help out quite a lot. So yeah, that's pretty much the whole setup. It's quite simple, it's quite easy, and it just goes to show that you don't really need to have autofocus if you are going to be using a gimbal. Now of course there are a lot of gimbals out there that do not have a focus wheel on them, so therefore you cannot use a servo focus motor. And to be honest, if you did want to use an S5 on a gimbal, I would definitely recommend you picking up a gimbal that does have this feature, pretty because manual focusing, sort of with the lens if you like, whilst it's balanced on the gimbal, is just going to create loads of issues for you. And while I tried it on my very old Giant Crane, it didn't work too well, and honestly having that servo focus does really come in handy. So yeah, I really hope that this video was somewhat useful or entertaining to you. I hope it sheds some light on how you can use the S5 on a gimbal. And yeah, if you did find it helpful, then please consider subscribing to the channel, because I do make a lot of content here surrounding the Panasonic S5, the S series, and all that sort of stuff. So if you're into that sort of thing, then this channel will definitely be for you. So yeah, thank you so much again for watching, and hopefully I shall see you in the next one.